How's going on? Mike the Caveman Q here again, PaleoPalm Island, MikeTheCaveman.com. We have our fourth live stream fourth live stream Q&A. Let's try that again. Yeah. And again, it's another one of those Ask Me Anythings. So unlike the last two times where we had dedicated questions where we were focusing on cholesterol the one time, we focused on the gut microbiome the second time, or third time really. Today, it's open Q&A, so anything health related. Let's get it going. I'll give you a couple of seconds to put together some questions. Otherwise, actually, our good friend Susanna sent me over a couple ahead of time. She pulled Hillary Clinton and gave me the questions ahead in advance. But that being said, what's up, Nancy? What's up, Al? How you guys doing? Like I said, open Q&A in terms of questions, so jump on in with your questions. Otherwise, I'll jump on to one of Susanna's first ones. Alright, so again, while you're thinking about why you're typing it in, I'll start with Susanna's. Hey, Dino, what's up? So we got one from her. Is cauliflower bad for you? And it's a loaded question. For most people, cruciferous vegetables, the brassica, as they are normally very good. The brassica, of course, encompassing things like cauliflower, like we mentioned, broccoli, kale, cabbage, Brussels sprouts, collard greens. All those are actually the exact same plant, and normally they're excellent for you. The problem we have is when we're talking about people who have thyroid issues, because they are a source of goitrogens, so they can be problematic in people with thyroid issues. So in that case, then yeah, cauliflower is the best for you. As a general rule though, cauliflower is amazing, and it can be used as a substitute for a dozen different things. There are cauliflower rice recipes, there's cauliflower potatoes, people use it to make tortillas, and I've actually made a rice pudding way back in the day. I have that picture online somewhere. I think Adventures in Paleo Chefery, that was an album I have on my personal page here that had all the different things I've played around with over the years. I kind of moved away from that. I should probably post pictures of it every once in a while. But Dino asks, I have a question. Why are you so awesome? That's a great question, Dino. I'd love to know. You tell me. Why am I awesome? I don't know. I try. I do the best I can. Just want to help people, you know? Let's see. Anybody else got some questions? What else we got going on? All right. So we'll move on to another one she sent in the meantime while we're waiting for some more questions. We have, let's see. I know you said that beans are bad for you, but is there any bean that isn't so? Also, black-eyed peas, is that a no-no as well? And so when we're talking about peas, black-eyed or otherwise, we're talking about, pea pods, which is a whole different animal. But peas, in and of themselves, they are actually part of the legume family. They are beans, and generally speaking, beans, not great. So, if we're talking about legumes, for most people, they are a problem, particularly if they are not prepared properly, if they are not soaked, sprouted, and or fermented. Now, that being said, if your gut is in order, if you don't have bacterial overgrowth, then they may actually have some benefit if prepared properly. The little bit of hummus, again, traditionally prepared, fermented. If we have a little bit of refried, so cooked and cooled beans can create a little bit of resistant starch. So they can have some benefit. They're a decent source of plant protein for those who absolutely refuse to eat meat. Not too bad. So quality legumes, if you don't have other issues going on and your gut is in order, can be all right. I personally don't make it a staple of my diet. I don't see the need. There are too many other things that taste just as delicious. No problem. So Dino says, you're awesome because you're a knowledgeable, great human being. Love you, brother. Team Scrap. And what's up, Sandra? What's up, Chris? How you guys doing? Nancy says, what about cooking cauliflower? Great question. So going back to question number 1 regarding the cauliflower, absolutely. So if you're cooking it, particularly lightly steaming it, if you really boil it to heck, what's going to happen is you're going to end up with you're losing a lot of the minerals, the water-soluble vitamins and the minerals. It's going to be lost in the water. Now, if you repurpose that water, potentially you can have some benefit. The cooking process should break down the phytic acid and the goitrogens, and they shouldn't remain in the water, so you actually could repurpose it. Let's say making like a smoothie or a shake out of it. Possibly. Is it really worth all the extra effort? Probably not. For somebody with explicit thyroid issues, I just wouldn't risk it. I would just have other sources of vegetables. I would use ones that aren't rich in goitrogens. If it works for you, great. But if we're really trying to go on a therapeutic diet, it's not necessarily the best. Hey, Susanna, we already got through parts of 2 of your questions, and you'll have to go back and rewatch that. And Tavana and Nure, how you guys doing? Let's see. We got... Did that kind of answer your question, Nancy? If not, put more in the comments. I'll be happy to go deeper into that. In the meantime, while you're answering that, let's see. Dino says, sometimes I have lunch at this Jamaican spot by my job. They offer liver and kidneys on some days, but it's not organic. How bad is it that if I eat that 1-2 days a week? That's a great question, Dino. So, if we're talking about offal, so those are things like liver and kidney and tongue and all the ugly bits that people don't necessarily like to eat or are afraid to eat. Those, while ideally organic, if they're being prepared without too much other garbage added to them, I definitely say jump on that. If you're willing to eat that and you don't want to have to prepare it at home, the fact that it's not organic, don't worry about it. Jump on it. The nutrition benefit of those is so high, it's not worth not having it, honestly. It's the same as if you went to, let's say, an Applebee's and ate the steak, It's going to be a garbage steak, but the fact of the matter is, it's still going to be better than having, a McDonald's burger. You know what I mean? And the liver is single-handedly the single best food that humans can eat, period. So, if that's going to get you eating it, go ahead. 1-2 times a week, I would definitely recommend that. And then, if you're up to it, make some at home. That way the family can have it too, if they're not too squeamish. Okay. And by the way, I actually love Jamaican food too, so that's pretty awesome. Exercise question. What is the best weightlifting routine for MMA BJJ? And hey, John Zona, what's up, brother? Okay, so regarding the best weightlifting routine, I know we had this conversation a couple times before. Personally, I like to do a little bit of strength and conditioning work, starting with mobility. Mobility first, period, always. The reason being, you want to make sure your body is moving properly for life. But if we're talking about BJJ and MMA, you definitely need to make sure that it's moving right at all times. Functional movements that actually work. From there, in terms of the lifting pattern itself, there's different phases you can go through. Whether you're trying to focus on more of metabolic conditioning, or if you're trying to look at more of a just strength or power development. In that sense, what you're going to want to look at is real whole body motions, so squats, deadlifts, pressing, real motions that your body is going to use. From there, once we have some base level strength, you can go and start working on isolation stuff. And I'm not talking about single arm bicep curls. I'm talking about like single leg deadlifts. So RDLs on a single leg, actually building stability around the knee joint. Great idea for something like MMA. For other things, we can look at, let's say, overhead waiter walks. Shoulder stability, making sure you actually have range of motion there and ability to move. That's going to help you immensely for BJJ MMA in terms of defending Kimuras, which, Dino, or Americanas, which, I don't know, man, we haven't rolled in a long time. My Kimuras are getting on point. We're going to have to test my Kimuras at some point. And yes, the Saint is in town. Taekwondo Joe, how you doing, brother? Okay, so, again, shoulder mobility work. In terms of striking, again, shoulder mobilities, overhead stuff, it will be huge. And Michael, I'll answer your question in a little bit, but for boxing, which my buddy Michael here is getting ready for an amateur boxing fight, might fly me out to California to help coach him because we're going through a little bit. I'll make sure I'll send you over some mobility stuff, or maybe I'll just do that as a video for the channel at some point. Just a general mobility warm-up. I think that way I can definitely have it done. Michael, you can definitely have it and watch it at your leisure as opposed to when we tried it before. But yeah, a lot of shoulder mobility stuff, a lot of hip mobility. hips, huge, okay? From there, like I said, just base level strength, and then isolation stuff in terms of functional, moving properly, a lot of core stuff, okay? So definitely gonna put that together. We got a lot of comments since then, so let's see what we got. Susanna, are all beans not good? Are there some beans that are good to eat? Great question. I actually cheated and went off the question you sent me already. So Susanna, on the replay, you can watch. I actually tackled that one, but that is a great question. So the short answer right now, because you're here, is essentially that prepare them properly. They can potentially have some benefit if your gut and everything else is in order. For you right now, what you have going on personally, without just putting it on blast, I'd say not yet. Not yet. There's not as much benefit for you right now. Dino says, what are your thoughts on bulletproof coffee, half and half with some coconut oil? Now, that is a double-edged question. It's a little bit loaded. If we're talking about the recipe for bulletproof, then yeah, I like it. The original recipe was butter and MCT or coconut oil, but I will occasionally do half and half. I'll generally, personally, what I'll do, I call it triple threat. Calvin Nutrition has their multivitamin nutrients. They have their version of MCT oil called Skinny Fat, and they have a whey protein. And I start most mornings off with one of these here mason jars. I fill up 2 cups coffee. And with that, I fill the rest up with water. That way I'm still getting in a solid 16 ounces of water, and it's 2 cups of coffee to start my day. I add 2 scoops of the whey protein. I will add 1 tablespoon, sometimes 2, depending on how squirrely I'm feeling, of the MCT, of the skinny fat. I have my nutrients, so my multivitamin. From there, what I do is occasionally I'll add some keto OS. So now we're getting an MCT, we're getting a protein, we're getting the exogenous ketones, and we're getting multivitamin. So we're hitting all angles pretty much, and that's how I'll start my day. I use the orange keto OS. I add a little bit of chocolate stevia, and it turns into an orange mocha frappuccino, like Zoolander. Get my blue steel going. But in terms of bulletproof coffee, in terms of a brand now we're getting something else. So the whole idea on the bulletproof coffee brand is avoiding mycotoxins. Now, I've talked about that a couple times before. My good friend Stephanie has dealt with some serious mold exposure. Mycotoxins, real deal, real problem. Audrey is another one of my friends who has a lot of experience on mycotoxin issues as well. And those are a real problem. But do I think that bulletproof coffee is the only one that is mycotoxin free? No, it's not even organic. If you keep your coffee properly stored and away from water, it's probably going to be pretty safe in terms of mold exposure. Could something else happen on a regular coffee? Absolutely. But if you have a quality coffee from a brand you trust, ideally, a lot of the farmers markets, things like Fairway, they have quality local brands. I would just go with that first. Dave's a squirrely dude, and I can't support him. That's all I gotta say. I thank him for introducing the concept of a bulletproof. The Caltons actually built that into a stronger concept in terms of what I like. It built a stronger foundation in terms of starting of the day. I like the triple threat a lot better than I do the bulletproof. I notice a lot more energy, a lot better results with triple threat and or keto OS in it as well. Okay. Why is tilapia bad? Generally farmed, so that's a quick one, John. Generally farmed, farm fish you don't want to touch. Farm fish, besides being jacked up with pesticides, with antibiotics, it will also be more likely to be parasitic. So things are growing close up, and it's a lot easier for parasites to proliferate. They're no good. Stay away from farm fish. In terms of tilapia in of itself, the macronutrient profile, the vitamin and mineral profile, the micronutrients, not great. So I definitely wouldn't stay away from tilapia. There's so many better fish. Michael, how much did Pharma pay you for the Rebel Health to show for them on our Rebel Health report? Unfortunately, they paid me nothing. I have to go talk to them. Kenny, if you do make it on, I'm going to make sure that you get me some money from Big Pharma. in terms of that. Is that video coming out tomorrow, Mike? Let me know in the comments, because I'll have to make sure everybody knows that, yeah, there's a big video coming out with Rebel Health Tribe, and I get to be a shill for the pharmaceutical industry. What? Yes. You'll see. Make sure you watch that. It's going to be a good video. Yes, Joe joined. Kimura's. I'm actually way back. There's a lot of stuff that we addressed way before. Mobility stuff video. Yeah, I will definitely put that together. Mike's been winging it, and that's been going very awesome. Yeah, we'll definitely get you going in terms of mobility work. I'll definitely get started. Gregor, money first. What's up, guys? John Zona, Blue Steel Coffee. I might actually have to patent that. That might be the new thing. It'll be Mike the Caveman's Blue Steel. Start your day with Blue Steel. That was a terrible, terrible rendition. Are there any legitimate benefits to using an infrared sauna? Absolutely. I believe I did a video on that, didn't I? If I didn't, that's definitely a topic to consider for the future. Absolutely. So in terms of sweating things out, you're going to detox. So there's a couple pathways that we generally push out toxins, right? Back door, front door, and through our skin. Now, when you have a cold, what happens? You have an overload of those toxins. And in this sense, we're talking about the bacteria dying off, oftentimes LPS, so like polysaccharide. That endotoxin we've talked about a whole bunch in terms of gut permeability, gut issues. What it's going to do is it's going to release, and your body sees that, says, oh, we need to get rid of that quick. Back door, front door, through the skin. So you have fever, you sweat it out. That's your body's natural mechanism to sweat out those toxins. What's the infrared sauna doing? Sweating out those toxins. Now, where do we store our toxins? In our fat. So, is an infrared sauna going to cause you to lose weight? No. But if you are currently losing fat, what do you think's happening? Toxins are being released from that tissue, and it's getting released into circulation. At which point, rather than having to go back through the colon, which, who was that? Was it Patty who was asking that question, Mike, over on Rebel Health? Talking about stuff going back through the colon, going back through the gut during fat loss. But either way, if we're sweating it out, it doesn't have to go as far. It's going from the skin, so from the fat cells to the bloodstream, out the skin. Great idea. So skin as a clearing mechanism for infrared, awesome. There's definitely some photo-sensitive type benefits that we don't really have fully elucidated yet. That's like getting into some of the esoteric ideas that, again, I'm not strong on yet, but in terms of electromagnetic frequencies, there's definitely some interesting stuff going on there. Because obviously infrared is part of the light spectrum, and our bodies are very receptive to different types of light. Blue light at night, bad idea. Sunlight in the morning, great idea. Things like that. UV light for the production of vitamin D. So our bodies definitely are photosensitive. Infrared being one of the spectrums of light that, yeah, we can definitely get some benefit from. We got John, I believe that's in relation to tilapia, right? They're saying damn. And the laugh, I'm assuming, is about my Blue Steel impression. What's up, Pat? How you doing? Dino just had some wild-caught salmon. He eats the skin. Am I a fat Viking, or is there some merit to eating the skin? No, absolutely. Small fish, things like sardines, anchovies, eat the whole damn thing. So you should be eating head to toe at all times. And the fact of the matter is, that's part of the problem. So going back to your previous question regarding the kidney livers from the Jamaican restaurant. Yeah. What's the other thing I always say? Bone broth, right? Gelatin. Why? Those are the things that make up connective tissue, make up the bone. So organs, connective tissue, muscle. As a culture here in the United States, we are so ingrained on eating only the muscle. Screw that. Eat everything, head to toe, all right? So, in terms of those fish, you can absolutely eat the skin, eat the meat, eat the eyeballs. I honestly can't say that I've ever eaten a fish eye, which is crazy. I've eaten a lot of weird stuff, but definitely eat the eyeballs, eat the brain, eat everything. Make a fish stew. Use the bones, make a stew out of it. So definitely eat head to toe. I was in the hot tub today. My buddy scolded me, saying it was a cesspool. No pun intended. for bacteria. Is that true? I think that chlorine kills everything. No. Okay, and that was a question. No, because that's what you actually have. In terms of that, do they put chlorine into the hot tub? If yeah, but I think they might. If yes, it does a pretty good job of taking most of that stuff out. That being said, you want exposure to bacteria. We've talked about before the concept of being too hygienic. We don't let kids go play outside anymore. They're too stuck on, on electronics. So everything's there. It's stuck in front of them. We have 3-year-olds on iPads. We have a problem with not actually getting outside, getting exposed to nature. That is huge. We need to be exposed to bacteria, to parasites, to fungi and viruses. That is how our immune system develops. The problem is when we have an inadequate immune response. So make sure you actually do that. You wish you could friend tag him. Why can't you? Go right ahead, tag him here. Or tag him in the repost, because friend of Dino, you're wrong. Period. Bam. So either tag him. I have it set to public, so you shouldn't have a problem tagging him. Otherwise, show him the replay. You're wrong, bro. You're wrong. So there's actually a concept known as the hygiene hypothesis. And essentially, the thought is that because we avoid exposure to those pathogens, that's how we develop autoimmune responses. That because we avoid them so bad or so often, we never actually my man. And yes, I love the infrared saunas too. But because we avoid it so often, that when we get exposed to, let's say, things like gluten, things like casein, things that shouldn't, and that's a very loose shouldn't, be problematic, when they get into our bloodstream, because we are not being exposed to other pathogens, our body sees that and mounts the immune response. So there's a train of thought that thinks that because we are too hygienic, that's why we're seeing a lot of autoimmune diseases. In fact, celiac actually is one that there's a thought that it's a problem because we no longer have parasites, which is a weird concept, right? What is celiac? Celiac is an overactive immune response to gluten protein, to the gliadin, which then in turn becomes gluten. So the thing is that normally people that had celiac, if you had constant parasites, they are going to crush that parasite because the immune system is so strong. Problem now, in the absence of those parasites, now the problem is that you're going to have an overactive response to nothing. There's nothing for it to attack. And I'll see you later, Dino. You had some great questions, brother. Make sure you send your buddy over. But so now there's nothing to attack. So because of that overactive response is a problem. We end up getting an attack on our own tissue. No good. All right. How do you feel? Joe asks, how do you feel about light therapy for vitamin D, laying under a UV light? There's definitely something potentially there. In terms of exposure versus, let's say, actually getting in the sun, yeah, no, definitely not. The sun provides more than explicitly UV light. But here in New York, during the summer, getting under a UV light, a full spectrum UV light, not just whichever the tanning beds that are just like UVA, UVB, I forgot which one they use, but a full spectrum UV, that will definitely be a decent idea during the winter months versus, say, let's say, supplementing with vitamin D. If you are super low, and I've talked about before why super low vitamin D may be more indicative of inflammation than of actual physiological low vitamin D, serum vitamin D. Getting in the sun is number one. Getting under UV light potentially could have some benefit. Like I said before about being photosensitive as humans and just life in general, life needs light. It's pretty important. We really need that full spectrum. So I think that could have some benefit. Yeah. So we got Dave. I don't know if I said what's up. What's up, Dave? What's up, Bobby? How you guys doing? Yeah, any more questions? And so, look at that. I just looked it up. It looks like I don't have one yet on infrared. So, yeah, Joe, remind me, I'll have to add that to the list of videos to do. Infrared saunas. We've got mobility for Michael. And so we got a couple more good new video topics coming out of this one. Any more questions we got, guys? Because we've been on here about 25 minutes now. If nobody else really has too many more questions, we'll start wrapping it up in about 5 minutes. Otherwise, let's see what we got. I think, Susanna, you had another question. If you're still here, I think you have one more that you had sent me over. Let's see. Yeah, I kind of touched on this one already regarding cruciferous vegetables. Those can be bad, and reading that cooking of them reduces the chemical impact they have on the gland. Yeah, I kind of tackled that one. Thoughts on rice. That's right. That was another one that you had asked. Don't usually want to eat grains or wheats and stuff like that, but isn't rice a grain? So, yeah, my thoughts on rice. Great question, Joe. So, yes, rice is a grain. Rice does have a prolamine similar to gluten. I believe it's avidin. It's zyne in corn. And it's the ovenin. Might be ovenin. I don't know. Doesn't really matter. You can Google it and call me out on it later if you want. Whatever. But a prolamine is a protein-rich amino acid, and all grains have something. Gluten, or gliadin rather, which becomes gluten in the body, is the most damaging. All of them are similar, can have slightly problematic effects. Now, when we're talking about grains, of the grains, rice is probably the most benign, meaning that it probably has the least issues of all the grains, particularly if we're talking about organic white rice. Now, I say white because at that point it's mostly just the starch. The bran's been removed, the endosperm's been removed, so most of the problematic anti-nutrients will be removed. And then, if you cook it and cool it, you'll be turning it into resistant starch, so you're not going to be getting a huge carbohydrate bolus, so you're not going to be getting a big insulin spike if you cook and cool it, at which point you're going to actually be feeding more of your gut bacteria, which we've talked about that quite a bit in terms of resistant starch. And in terms of the reason why organic, that's really important, is a lot of the times the pesticides that are used on rice contain heavy metals, things like arsenic, mercury, lead, and those residues can still be found if we're talking about non-organic rice. So organic rice actually is pretty important in terms of avoiding heavy metal toxicity. Now, that comes with the caveat that, again, kind of like Dino's question regarding the liver and it not being organic. If you have some white rice that is non-organic, occasionally you'll probably be all right. But make a concerted effort, that particularly if you're preparing that rice yourself, that it is organic white rice. Cool? I'm getting buzzed over here. Not is water. Getting buzzed over here. All right. So, yeah, I mean, I think we'll call it here then. Guys, thank you so much for joining me. Hopefully this helped you out. You know where you can find me, though. Over here, obviously, on Facebook. You can find me on Paleo Primal Long Island as well. That's the group page. I have at Mike the Caveman over on Instagram and Twitter, where I be posting things every day, obviously. Of course, on YouTube. Mike the Caveman's the name of the channel. Ask Mike the Caveman is obviously the segment that we're doing every single day. I have a topic coming out, so these live Q&As, I like doing them, that we can get a little bit more direct interaction. I can get more of a feel for you guys out there, and we can really get kicking around back and forth. But it also helps develop new ideas, new questions. And I mean, I definitely have enough topics that I get asked on the regular, because every question that I've done on Ask Mike the Caveman has come from somebody. They're all questions that I've either had asked to me directly, or it's been a conversation and the topic kind of just came up. So everyone's a real question. And these live Q&As, I love doing them. Hopefully you guys are enjoying them. They're cool. I like the concept. So that being said, guys, definitely check out my other stuff. Please, if you can, watch them over on YouTube. I know I've been posting them here on Facebook just so that more people can see them and get the content out. But I would truly appreciate if you could, if possible, head over to YouTube and watch it as well. Ideally with the ad. It's too much to ask. I understand. Just watch it on Facebook. It's cool. But if you watch it on YouTube, it is monetized there. I get fractions of a cent on each view. But, you know, every little bit helps. I truly appreciate it if you can follow that. I'm at 93 subscribers on YouTube. If we can get to 100, I can actually have Mike the Caveman on YouTube as well. That'd be great. I, again, would truly appreciate if we could head on over to YouTube and actually watch the videos over there occasionally, like, subscribes over there. You know, obviously subscribe, get me to 100 at least. I truly appreciate it, guys. So, either way, thanks again for coming down tonight. I will see you tomorrow. Take care, guys.